All right, welcome everyone to our first Dharma talk. So as we mentioned in the presentation, there are various possible components to a Dharma talk, right? So one would be to say something about the deeper practice itself. Another component of a Dharma talk might be about something about living in accordance with your unique existence. And another component of a Dharma talk might be to say something more about the traditional of yoga. And we're going to do all three of these today. All right. So about the practice itself, we know that we are starting with posture. Posture is foundational to yoga, and it is foundational to many other traditions that have co-evolved alongside yoga. It is part of things like Sufism. It is part of what the Buddhists do. And the Theravada Buddhists, they consider posture to be the epitome of enlightenment. They have a saying that how we sit, stand, or lie down demonstrates our enlightenment. If you go to a Buddhist temple in South Asia, which I've done, I've gone to many, you will find statues of Buddhas, and you'll always see there'll be a sitting Buddha statue, a standing Buddha statue, and a lying down Buddha statue, all in the same temple. And what those represent are the three fundamental orientations, or three fundamental postures. And so they say that we express our realization through how we sit, how we stand, and how we lie down. Now, Dharma is a heavy focus in Indian culture. It is such a focus that there's an entire book dedicated to it. Some of you may have heard of this book, the Bhagavad Gita, right? This is an entire book. It is a part of a larger Hindu work, a traditional text called the Mahabharata. And essentially, the Bhagavad Gita is a single chapter out of the Mahabharata. And the Mahabharata is this grand story. It's this grand mythic story. And it is, at least in part, about a kingdom that is ruled by a family who really serves the people. Now, that in of itself wouldn't be an interesting story, so you know something bad's got to happen. And something bad does happen. There's a not-so-righteous family that takes over the kingdom. And so now the kingdom is in peril, right? The people are being taken advantage of. It's not being run well. It's being run for the selfish motives of this other family. And so, for the sake of the people in the kingdom, the first family has to take the kingdom back. And on the moment of the battle, Arjuna, who's one of the characters, he is the most powerful warrior for the good guys. He's kind of like Achilles in the Greek mythology. He's an archer. He's the best warrior. And so Arjuna is looking over the battlefield. And what he sees is old friends. He sees old teachers. He sees the people that he used to be with him. And as he's seeing these people, he's imagining like, okay, I'm going to go into battle with them. And I'm about to go, I can't hurt them. I can't kill them. So Arjuna has a moment of crisis. He has this incredible dilemma. He's stuck. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know what the right thing to do is. Luckily, his charioteer, his taxi driver, so to speak, is Krishna. Krishna is essentially God incarnate. And Krishna has agreed to be Arjuna's charioteer on the condition that Krishna will not get involved in the battle, but he will serve as counsel for Arjuna. And so Arjuna laments to Krishna about this great dilemma that he has. And what unfolds from there is Krishna talking about how Arjuna can get right with his dharma. And that's the Bhagavad Gita. So on the one hand, we have this incredible epic, right? We've got this very complex epic of a story. On the other hand, we've got this very simple notion of sense of enlightenment being the sense of how we sit, how we stand, how we lie down. And this is often how we find Dharma, is through this, what we call, and we'll talk about later in the training, the simple epic paradox. Both are key. On the epic side, we've got Krishna's advice column, also known as the Bhagavad Gita. And he talks to Arjuna about yoga being the tool that allows us to hear our inner guidance, that provides us a connection to life. It does this by presenting a dilemma moment, right? This dilemma moment that Arjuna is in, it draws out nuance, it draws out complexity like it does in our own life. Arjuna is in a crisis, and Krishna has such a complex answer as a full philosophical conversation that it takes up an entire book. It takes up a good full length of volume. And this is a completely essential at times to get into this level of complexity. But also, complexity can be of disservice at other times. It is better to be completely simple. As the Buddhists say, you express your realization through how you sit, through how you stand, and through how you lie down. So let's keep it simple. And we'll begin by expressing our realization through how we lie down. So go ahead and make your way to a comfortable lying down position. And just lie. Just lie there on the ground. Like, how often do we get to just lie? No other demands, no other call on our time. But just be lying down. To live in accordance with your unique existence can be simple. When you rest on this earth, just rest on this earth. And reconnect. Reconnect to this ground. Connect to your ground. Feeling your breath move in and out. As your breath gently rises and falls. Begin to gently shift your way toward a little bit of movement, beginning with a gentle twist where you bring your right knee up with your legs components at 90-degree angles and bring your right knee across your body to your left into a twist. You may wish to support your knee with a prop if you feel any discomfort in your hip, or you just want a little gentler twist. You can place a prop underneath your right knee. And continue to rest into the twist. Into the chain of turn through all the vertebrae in your spine. Feeling your breath rise and fall. On your next breath, very gently untwist your body, coming back to your lying down position. For just a moment, pause. As if to just be here, to just lie here. And then moving to the other side, bringing your left leg up to the 90-degree angles. Bring your left leg across your body, supporting with a prop, or just allowing it to hover to the floor. You want your pose to be supported enough that you can rest into it. You can allow a release through your spine. Continue to let gravity work its way through all the links in the chain. Feeling your breath rise and fall for 2 more cycles. Very gently, nice and easy. Make your way out of the twist. Back to your resting position on the ground. Take a moment to just lie. Connect to your ground. And similar to our previous twist, we're going to take another twist, this time led by the arm. And so bring your right arm up off the ground and reach it across your body to your left, still keeping your right hip toward the floor. So your right shoulder lifts off the ground, but your right hip stays more down on the ground. Kind of an odd twist, but notice how it's still a twist. You might explore the feeling, like, is it odd because it's different, or is it odd because some other reason? Go ahead and switch it to the other side, bringing your right arm back, your left arm up and across. And as your left arm reaches across over toward the right, let your left hip stay down. And then letting your breath rise and fall. Use some good timing with your breath to release your left arm, coming back to center, coming back to resting on your back. Just lie. Take one more moment to reconnect. Connect to your ground. Any sense of ground that has been lost through spinning in the world or just doing what you got to get done. Reclaim your ground. Your connection to life. Feeling your breath rise and fall. Begin to very gently, almost like little puppet strings, are starting to bring your limbs up. Begin to very gently, as if puppet strings were taking your hands toward the ceiling and taking your feet toward the ceiling. Begin to bring all of your limbs up toward the ceiling. We're going to play with an exercise here called a cross crawl. You don't have to go to the full range of motion in this, but you'll start it with your right hand and left foot remaining toward the ceiling, your left hand down at your side, and your right leg down toward the floor. If it's an inch, it's an inch. If it's an inch from the floor, it's an inch from the floor. And then you're going to reverse it. Bring your right leg up and your left leg down, your left arm up and your right arm down. Right? And then you keep doing that. You keep switching back and forth. It's a cross crawl. So you've got opposites toward the ceiling at the same time. You can keep it in a short range, or you can hover just off the ground with your limbs as you go. Take 2 more cycles, which is to say each limb 2 more times. And when you finish, however you like, make your way over to your side and on up to a comfortable seat. You express your realization through how you sit. This is what the Buddhists would say. This is an invitation more than it is like some kind of pressure. We don't really need more extra pressure on how to sit, I don't think. So as you sit, use your next inhale to bring your right arm up. And with your left hand down toward the floor or on a block, come into a side bend, opening up your right side body. So you're getting a stretch all along your right side body, opening up some of the tissues all along your right side body. Take another 2 breaths here. Feel welcome to breathe big, just keeping your breath, just breathing naturally. And with your next exhale, gently come on back up, replacing sides, taking your right hand down toward the floor, supported by a block, and your left arm up in the air. Open up through your left side body. Feel welcome to breathe big. No need for it to be bigger than natural. By natural, I don't mean everyday breath necessarily, but just not forcing anything. It is our breath that brings aliveness to our practice. On our next exhale, gently come on back up to center. And we'll come into a back bend now. Begin to creep your hands back behind you. You may wish to bring props with you or bring yourself up onto fingertips so you have something to work with. And then begin to use your blocks or your hands behind you as leverage so that you can roll back your shoulders, lift up your sternum bone. And as you breathe big, bringing life to the pose, notice, have you kept your seat as a back bend, right? Or are you coming out of your seat a little bit? Like, are you a little bit more forward on your sit bones rather than back? Stay connected to your ground. Claim your ground even as you lift your heart higher and breathe fuller. Claim your ground, the foundation of your realization, as you lift your heart and aid the natural rhythm of your breath. 2 more breaths. And from your next full inhale into your chest, On your exhale, gently come on back up and then bring both hands forward, not quite all the way down, but you can come to fingertips, the floor, blocks in front of you, and around your back like a cat. So you begin to stretch your back, particularly your low back, as you round it. Just beginning to bring a bit of space to your back. Take long breaths. And with your next inhale, gently come on up to a seat. Seated easy and tall, as if a midline through your spine. We're lengthening your spine to the ceiling. Coming back to that place of just sit. As if you were already expressing your realization through your seat. Feeling your breath rise and fall. With your next inhale, gently bring both arms up overhead. Easy, natural breath, not sweating the timing of the breath at all. On your exhale, turn to your left, taking your right hand to your left knee. If that's a little too far in the twist, you can keep it more back toward your right knee here in the twist. As you maintain your seat, even through the twist. And work the twist even through your middle and upper back. Take one more breath. And on your next inhale, again, no need to sweat the breath timing. Use the inhale to unwind, extend both arms up overhead. And on your exhale, turn to the other side, turning to your right, left hand in the direction of your right knee. You may wish to have a block behind you. Sometimes that is helpful so you can keep a tall spine. Fingertips is another option. Whatever lets you have a spaciousness in the twist. Take another breath. And then using your next inhale, unwind the twist, coming back to center, coming back to your seat, back to pause. As if already expressing your realization through your sitting and how you sit. 3 breaths. Now, if any of that activity created some tension in your body, especially your hips, feel welcome here to do any neutralizing of tension. You can extend your legs forward and roll your legs back and forth a little bit, or patter the legs or swish them or move your body around. However, might release any accumulated tension. We want to make sure we continue to not build tension in our body. And we're going to transition from here to Paschimottanasana. And so bringing both legs in front of you in a forward bend, you're going to extend your arms over, or your hands toward your feet. Now, especially if you're tight in the hamstrings, you may wish to set up a prop underneath your seat, like you see here in the side view. A blanket is nice, a block can be nice. Sometimes bending the knees can be nice to take pressure off your back. So the stretch is designed to go into your legs as opposed to your back. No need to overreach. And so as we come into Paschimottanasana, we first have the axiom of we always start with orienting first. However you are in space, which is your posture, you have a fundamental orientation. That's your seat here. You are sitting. And so however much you go forward in the stretch, ground your seat. Get forward on your sit bones. That will help ground your seat. And however much action you take in extending forward, what if you put as much action into grounding your seat as you do to the bending part? And keep grounded in your seat for 2 more breaths. And now using your next inhale to make your way up. Again, if there is accumulated tension in your legs or hips here, feel welcome to go ahead and shake them out, windshield wiper them, or patter them, or rock and roll them a little bit. All these are good options. And we're going to come into an optional part here. You do not have to do this next part, but it's going to be a bit of playful rolling on the mat. And so you're going to just tuck in your knees and rock and roll. If you decide to do this, be careful not to roll too far back onto your neck. Now, if you would like, as a replacement, you can simply place your hands behind you and hold a quarter tabletop position. You can stay with your roll or your quarter tabletop. If you're rolling, you might play with not letting your feet hit the floor, come into a balance, and then pause it. We'll come into a boat pose. If you're in quarter tabletop, you may wish to lift your feet up only, your hands up only, or perhaps both hands and feet. You can keep it gentle by keeping parts on the floor, or you can begin to extend hands and feet up off the ground. There's no amount of athleticism here that makes it better yoga per se. Taking another breath here in boat pose. On your next exhale, tuck in your legs, come right to a seat. And seated tall, take a moment to pause, as if you already are, expressing your realization through how you sit. We're going to come to 4s. If you would like to release your legs, do a little shakeout beforehand, feel welcome to do so. And once you come to 4s, we will take 1 round of cow-cat, starting with cow pose, where you will let your shoulder blades drop in and lift your sternum bone. So your belly will drop, you will lift your sternum bone heart toward the sky as you look upward in a back bend. Breathe in. And on your exhale, do the opposite, round your back like a cat. So you engage your abdominals, look toward your waist as you round your back. On your next inhale, come back to neutral, tuck your toes underneath and lift your hips up and back into downward facing dog. Three breaths here in downward dog. Any variation you like here, if you like to move your downward dog or you like to keep it more still, that is up to you. Use your next inhale to walk your hands back toward your feet. Breathing in. Being nice and gentle, nice and good to the backs of your legs. Use your next inhale to bend from your knees and hips, rise up to standing on an inhale. You can reach both arms up to the sky and then exhale, release both hands down to your sides, or if you prefer, hands to heart center, whatever you like, and stand for just a moment, just as you were a moment ago, just sitting, just lying down for 3 breaths. Just stand. Feeling your breath rise and fall. With your arms alongside your body, as much as your shoulders are able to have them in this plane. With your next inhale, begin to lift both of your arms up overhead. And on your exhale, return both arms back down, keeping it in the plane of your body. So like if there were a plane of glass at your front and a plane of glass at your back. On your inhale, lift both arms up, keeping between those 2 panes of glass. On your exhale, both arms float back down again, staying in the plane. And continue like this for another 6 to 8 cycles. Inhaling your arms up and exhaling your arms back down. If there's any pain or discomfort in your shoulders, staying in the plane of your body, feel welcome to keep your arms a little bit forward. First rule is always ahimsa, the nonviolence. Taking care of your body's needs. 2 to 3 more cycles. And as you next inhale arms up and exhale arms down, come right back to your pause, to your stand. And with your next breath, step your right foot forward into a long stance to come into a crescent lunge. Now, especially as you bring your arms up overhead in the crescent lunge, the Buddhists would say we can make this simple, that this is just another way to stand. It's just a variation on a fundamental orientation of standing. And so notice how much you're in this as standing. 2 more breaths. And then on your next breath, make your way back to feet together, any way that you like. Relaxing, standing, in what we call samastiti, a relaxing standing posture. We come back to the fundamental of just stand. On your next inhale, bring both arms up overhead, grabbing a hold of your right wrist with your left hand. Come into a side bend, opening up your right side body. Beginning to stretch and open your right side body. Once again, feel welcome to bring bigger breaths, even if they're a little bigger than usual. Just so long as you're not having to force anything, keeping it relatively natural. Take another inhale. And on your exhale, come on back to center and switch sides, grabbing a hold of your left wrist with your right hand. Begin to stretch and open up through your left side body. What matters most with your breath is that it is relatively natural. You're not straining it. You're not sweating the timing. You're not adding any tension with your breath. But you breathe consistently, breathe steadily, breathe with life. One more breath here in the side bend. And on your exhale, come on back to the top. Come on back to your fundamental orientation. Just stand 3 breaths. Notice how it is to stand. And bring this sense of stand into the crescent lunge on the other side with your left leg forward, right leg back. And so this is a standing pose. It is a variation on how to stand. And so stay with this sense of stand, especially as you take your arms overhead. Notice how easy it is, how a little bit of your energy gets away from your fundamental orientation. A little bit of energy gets away from your standness. Inhabit your stance, especially as you lift your upper body upwards to the sky, especially as your energy begins to extend away from your fundamental place. Even more powerfully, inhabit your stance, inhabit your legs, inhabit the way you stand on the ground. Take another breath here in your crescent lunge. Inhabiting powerfully your stance. Make your way out of the crescent lunge, however you like. And once again, check in if there's tension that's accumulated from the poses. Feel welcome to shake out your legs, to pedal your legs back and forth, whatever you might find helpful. We never want to be adding tension in our yoga practice. And we're going to come into our next standing pose, Virabhadrasana 2. You probably have done this one. This is Warrior 2. So left leg, let's go right leg forward, left leg back. Warrior 2. So you're bending your right knee. Doesn't have to be 90 degrees. You're facing toward the long edge of your mat as you extend one hand toward the front of your mat, one hand toward the back of your mat. And this is a standing pose, so stay strong in your stance. The fundamental orientation or the fundamentalness of the pose is stand. We express our realization through how we stand. This is just a variation of how to stand. Take another breath here in Warrior 2. And on your next exhale, bring your right forearm to your right thigh. So we're going to come into side angle prep. Now, for those of you who may not like this pose because you're like, this is too much of an easy pose to do. Well, it's supposed to be easy because the whole point is that our spine gets an opportunity to be long. So we can lengthen our spine here. We can put space between our vertebra. As you bring space to your vertebra, this gives you the opportunity to make it a little bit more of a twist, a little bit more of a turn of your sternum bone up toward the sky. Now take one more breath as you turn your sternum bone toward the sky. And with your next exhale, turn to the floor. So both hands are on the inside of your right foot, and then walk your hands 90 degrees to your left. So you point all 10 toes toward the long edge of your mat. We're going to come here into a wide-legged forward bend, a wide-legged stretch. And this too is a standing pose. The fundamental of it is to stand. Get into your legs. This is fundamental. And as you ground in the fundamental and notice what changes as you get into your legs and make it a way to stand, notice, is this different than how you might usually be in this pose? Take another breath as you both inhabit your stance while also opening up the backs of your legs. And with your next inhale, begin to lift up and walk your hands over to your left. We're going to come into warrior two here on the second side. So your left toes point toward the short end of your mat, your right toes toward the long end, perhaps a little bit in, as you extend both arms up in warrior two. And so in the warrior inhabits a kind of dignity. You can bring some fullness to your upper body here in warrior. And as you keep that fullness, to be the warrior does not get lost up top. The warrior who grounds is in their fundamentalness. And so keep your ground as the warrior. Stay connected to the conditions of being the warrior, that you hold your ground, you inhabit the stance, you connect to the conditions of life. Take another breath here as you keep your ground. And with your next exhale, bring your left forearm to your left thigh, coming into side angle prep. As you give length to your spine so that you can have space between the vertebrae to help twist. Notice, can you do that at the same time that you keep your ground? That you inhabit your stance, inhabit your legs and their connection to this earth. Take another breath. And use your next inhale to gently rise on up, coming back up to standing. Pointing your left toes in and stepping your feet together. You can make it fun and hop, or you can just walk them in or toe heel them in. We'll come into samasthiti, though if you have any tension in your legs that you need to work out, rotate out, feel welcome to do that. And come back to your sense of standing. We're going to do a few shoulder rolls. And begin by lifting your shoulders up, maybe like 70% of the distance they could go toward your ears. And then go forward and then draw your shoulders back and around. So you're doing a circle around and around, going up, down, forward, back, up, down, forward, back, up, forward, down. Taking 3 to 5 more cycles. Right? You don't have to push a great range of motion. Just do enough that feels like it's getting into something new. It's starting to open up something new. Right? As we open up new things, this is what allows us to revitalize ourselves through practice. And then begin to reverse direction. And so now begin to take your shoulders up, back, down, and then forward, and then up, back, down, and then forward. So you begin to move your shoulders in the opposite direction. You do not need to move through a great range of motion. It's not a range of motion contest in yoga. If it were, the contortionists would be the best yogis, and then I would be out of a job. Take 2, 3 more shoulder rolls in this direction. And when you finish your next shoulder roll, we're going to bring both arms up into cactus. So arms are shaped a bit like a goalpost. So it's a Savara cactus. You're going to bring your fingers wide and then draw your shoulders back. I like to think of cactus pose as being the anti-desk asana. So it's the opposite of what we do at a desk. We usually let our shoulders slump at the desk. We usually kind of let our sternum bone drop at the desk. So here in cactus, give your sternum bone a bit of a lift, just a little bit of a lift. Lift your chin as much as you lift your sternum bone. And as you continue to draw your shoulders back, take one more breath, one more full inhale. And on your exhale, let the cactus drop. Just come to your stance, come to a pause, relax and standing. Now, next, stance. A lot of this yoga, right, is just playing with variations of sit, stand, lie down. So we're going to play with a variation of standing. Widen your feet out to outer mat width and let your feet, your toes point out a bit. Now, as your toes point out a bit, bring yourself into a squat. The squat might be 1 or 2 inches down. Take care of your knees. It doesn't have to be anything super deep. Though if you'd like to go down deep, stay at least hips above the knees here. So it's at least at chair level. And you're going to bring your right arm up parallel to the floor with your hand in a fist, your left arm down so that it's perpendicular to the floor. Got it? Okay, now you're going to switch the positions of the arms. So your right arm goes down to perpendicular, your right arm up to parallel, and then switch again, and switch again, and switch again, and switch again. Now staying in the squat, take a deep, deep inhale in for this Kriya, and then begin to vigorously move your arms up and down. Yes, so vigorously move your arms up and down, going back and forth. Now try to keep the arm when it comes up, keep it parallel, right? So you're using muscle control in your shoulder. This actually helps build things like arm balances and handstands and stuff. We're building little muscles in the shoulder. So real quick, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Good, yes. And so, yep, so you're controlling it. So you're not letting it go past parallel, not letting it go less than perpendicular. That's good. Keep going, keep going. 2 more seconds. Good. And then go ahead and release. Go ahead and come on up out of the squat and come back to standing, back to pause. Let your breath breathe. As always, take care of any tensions if you need to. So you may return to inhabiting your stance. Feel your breath moving. And after vigorous motion like that, oftentimes the breath gets active. You feel the heart pumping. We're going to take one more cactus pose, one more anti-desk asana. So arms come up into that goalpost form and shoulders draw back. Not a super big lift, but just a little tiny lift of your sternum bone, little tiny lift of your chin as much, but not more than your sternum bone. Breathing nice and big. And notice as you take this cactus pose, notice it's quite easy to lose the inhabiting of your stance when we focus on the upper body like this. And so even here, can you keep your ground? Inhabit your stance even as you bring focus to your upper body. And take 2 more breaths like this. On your next exhale, gently release both arms down. Come back to standing in samasthiti. To, as the Buddhists would say, just stand. And in a timing that is enjoyable for you, make your way down to a seat somewhere in your next 3 to 8 breaths. And set up in what we call a meditative seat. So you have some kind of prop, whether it be a sitting cushion. If you're an experienced meditator, you might have one of those. Or a folded up couple blankets or bolster, a couple blocks, a 90-degree angle. Set up a nice structure for a meditative seat where your legs and knees are lower than your sit bones, which enables you to bring your weight more forward so that more of your weight goes into your legs and less of your weight is in your low back. No need to go so far forward that your abs will clench, but just enough that the weight of your body goes into your legs. And not your low back. And take 10 to 15 breaths. To just sit. Inhabit your seat. Inhabit your seat by putting gravity into your legs, being in your legs. Ground in the fundamental of your seat. The invitation of the Buddhists is that we don't have to do any great feats of meditation in order to live in accordance with existence. We simply can sit well, inhabit this moment as our seat. As you take another breath or two in this seat, check in with your legs, your low back, if any of it got tightened up as you come out of the seat. Be sure to give any shake or windshield wiper or release. Give yourself the opportunity to release any tensions that might have built up. And once you've shaked out or moved out the tensions, then we're going to come into just whatever is a comfortable seat. You can stay on the props or not, is up to you, into a tricep stretch. So bringing your right arm up overhead and then hand drops behind you toward your neck or perhaps your upper back. You can grab a hold of your right elbow with your left hand and just give it a very gentle encouragement toward your midline. Not so strong that you feel it in the shoulder. This should be felt in the back of your arm along the muscle. Not in your shoulder, not in the joint. Nice and easy tricep stretch. One more breath. And then switch sides. This time, grabbing hold of your left elbow with your right hand. Again, no need to push it to the point of the joint. That is not going to help. You're going for the nice length from the back of your elbow through the back of your arm. A stretch. Again, notice how easy it is when you are working with the upper body to lose your ground, lose in the inhabiting of your seat. Taking another breath here in the tricep stretch. Use your next exhale to release. And we're going to set up for Gomukhasana with the lower body. So this is the cow face pose with the lower body. I'm going to bring your right leg on the bottom so that your right knee faces forward, your right heel toward your left hip, and your left leg over the top as if to stack your knees, though no need to force your knees into a stack. Now, once you have your legs in the stack, you can begin to come forward in the pose. So you're actually getting more forward on your sit bones. And you're feeling for a hip stretch here. Ideally, the hip stretch is inside your seat, though it could be a bit more in the outside of the hip, more in the abductors. Note that the forward movement will help you stretch only so much as you keep your seat, only so much as you continue to inhabit your seat, as if pulling or magnetizing your sit bones to the earth, especially getting forward on your sit bones. The two have to work together. Using your full breaths, take 5 more full but natural breaths, relaxed breaths. But full breaths. Now, hip openers can be a little tricky. So as you come out of this pose, you may find some tension builds up in your hips. If it does, please feel welcome to shake out your legs or windshield wipe your legs or do some hip rotations. Any of these would be helpful for making sure you're not holding accumulated tension. And so shake out or work out any possible accumulated tension before switching to the other side of Gomukhasana. All right, we seem to be in some debate over what side we're on, but as long as you do the opposite side that you did, you're good. And so the forward movement will have, of course, help the stretch, but it actually can harm it if you don't inhabit your seat. All right, so there's no reason to back off the forward movement. Just don't leave the fundamental ground of your seat. Notice the two have to come together. And we can't open when we leave our grounding. We actually go deeper when we stay grounded in the fundamentalness of anchoring your seat, anchoring and inhabiting the fullness of your seat into the earth. 5 full breaths. Relaxed breath, easy breaths, but full. Take your time using your next inhale to come out of the pose. Though if you'd like to stay in longer, you can stay in for another couple breaths. When you come out, check in if there's tensions that would be good to shake out, or do some rotations or windshield wipers to work out. Stopping and resting, neutralizing accumulated tensions. These are things you can always do at your own pacing. We're going to transition to a restorative back bend. And so it should be enough to bend your upper back, but not so much that it is going to, that you can't lie here for 5 to 10 minutes. So you're going to set up a prop for your upper back. Now you're going to see some various usages of props by our models. You might use one of those. You might use a different one. Some people like to put a block in their upper back. Some people like to soften the block and place a blanket on top of it. You can use a bolster as well. You want the prop to be positioned such that it is in what we call the thoracic spine, which is about centered where the bottom of your shoulder blades are. So again, the emphasis is more on bending your upper back than it is on bending your lower back. And you can decide how much bend you want based on how powerfully you set up the prop. You can set up the block at the tall block and it's quite strong as a back bend. Now, if you use a stronger back bend, be sure to set something up underneath your head. if your neck starts to crank, because the stronger you go in the back bend, the more it will bend in your neck. And so make sure your head is supported if you are doing a pretty strong back bend here. If you have any trouble, just wave at me and I'll be happy to come by and help you out. Now, once you find a position where you can settle in, you found a position where you can be here for a good 5 to 10 minutes. Just continuing to relax. And as you continue to relax your muscles off the bone, and with each exhale, get a little heavier on the earth. Allow something more to soften with each exhale. Get more heavy with each exhale. As if you were melting like wet clay. And like wet clay, you allow gravity to mold you to the props. And as you melt toward the ground, melt toward this deep living earth. Continue to inhabit your ground. Allow yourself to ground in the most fundamental connection to life. This alive earth most fundamental to human existence. Allow yourself to soften into the source of our very alive physicality, into the deep ground. Allow your breath to rise and fall 5 more times. And as you have softened your way to the deep ground, be very gentle in how you come back. Very gentle in how you make your way back off the props, which may include just like very gentle movements and rolling over to the side of them. It may include a slow moment of transition or rocking or wiggling to release any accumulated tension from the pose. Whatever enables you to transition comfortably, not quite yet to Shavasana. You may wish to have your Shavasana props within reach. But set up lying on your back. And as we return to our lying down, closing similar to how we began on this earth, of this earth. As if levitated by a puppet string, let your right knee lift up toward the ceiling and your knee move across your body to your left, coming into a twist. Again, feel welcome to place any props that may be helpful in letting you rest fully in the twist. Taking 3 breaths. With gentleness and staying easy, begin to make your way out of the twist, leaving your right leg flat on the floor and your left leg up and across to move into a twist on the other side. And here too, you can soften. You may soften to the earth. This is what the Buddhists mean when they say you express your realization through how you lie down, through letting go to the deep ground. Four more breaths. As you begin to gently work your way out of this twist, coming back to your neutral lying down position, we'll come into happy baby pose. One more pose before we close. Bringing both feet up in the air, bending at your knees. To whatever your flexibility allows, strap around your feet or pull the outsides of your feet toward the floor. Getting just a little release on your back. Take 3 more breaths. And if there are any final movements you need to release tension, you may take those now. Any props you would like for setting up your final rest, your final Shavasana, you can set those up now. You may wish to just stay where you are with no props. You may wish to place a blanket or bolster underneath your knees. Is nice if you tend to accumulate low back tension. A little roll under your neck or head pillow can be nice if you tend to accumulate neck tension. Nothing complicated is needed. The Buddhists would say you can express your realization by being simple. Simply lie down. Simply rest. And let the full earth support you. feeling your body rest on the ground. Your body taking up space. Just resting, just lying here. Find a way to keep this simplicity in the transition. Find a way to keep this simplicity of inhabiting your ground, even as you begin your transitions. Whether your transitions begin with deeper breaths, with wiggling fingers and toes, or with other movements. Keep your simplicity and ground with you as you transition to the closing seat, whether that be taking a little more time on your back, a little more time on your side, or a little more time in some other transition. Making your way toward a closing seat in your own time. When you come to your closing seat, simply sit. Just sit. When we simplify and ground in our most fundamental orientation, we can begin to live in accordance with something deeper. And with the wish that the Buddhists offer everyone, may we express all of our realization simply through how we lie down, how we stand, and how we sit each and every single day. And thank you for joining me tonight. Namaste.